Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Are you dripping with sweat like me? Oh my goodness. It's getting hot by the day, so I've even got my sunnies on today. I'm here. I shouldn't really speak to you with sunnies on, should I? My goodness. Oopla. Prescription sunglasses. My first ever prescription sunglasses. I got them, I don't know, 7 years or so ago when I got my spectacles. They had an offer on. Yes, I want prescription sunnies. I digress straight away. It's because I'm just having a quick moment. Sitting down in the shade here by my shed. Oh, it's a little bit of a breeze. It's lovely. We're kind of having days in the 30s. 30. Apparently next weekend, I think it's the 10th today. Next weekend, we're due to be climbing up to about 35, which is freakish for the UK, really. Actually, while we're here, just before we go into the garden, I'm going to have my birthday beer from Rob. Rob sent me some money to get a birthday beer. Thanks, lovely. And I've gone for this one today. Never had it before. Whitstable Bay Organic Ale. The reason I've chosen it, or I chose it, I got two, is because Whitstable is one of the little towns on the North Kent coast that I go through every time I go to visit Auntie Teapot. It's also somewhere I've been numerous times. I have friends who live in Whitstable. It's a little fishing, well, it was a little fishing village. It's now a town and it's just about commutable into London. So it's gone a bit gentrified. But yeah, I saw it. And actually when I'm doing the road trip with my sis, we're going to go to Whitstable. She's going to sample the mussels. I don't eat them, but I'm sure she'll enjoy them. So yeah, Whitstable. And it's made by Shepherd Neame. I'm sure I saw Shepherd Neame's escutcheon on here somewhere. Oh, it's on the lid. It's Shepherd Neame, which is a brewery based in Faversham, it's on the same train line. If I'm coming back from Auntie Teapot, she lived more out towards Margate, not in Margate. As you're coming back, you hit Whitstable, and like I said, that's just about commutable into London. And then you've got Faversham. Am I doing them in the right order? It's a little market town with Shepherd Neame Brewery. Now, I've been a couple of times to Faversham. I did the brewery tour one year, and it's a really sweet little market town, and it's on my agenda for looking at next year when I move, if I can't find a property where I'm in my neighbourhood here. Anyway, cheers everyone, it's almost cold still. That's lovely. God, it tastes strong. It's 4.5%. I didn't think to check that. That's not too bad. I actually like quite low alcohol beer. I prefer, I like the long drink. I like the taste. I don't want to get squiffy. That's nice. It's very golden hoppy. Cheers all. Before I get too relaxed, we're going to go into the garden and have the June tour. Not June. I really would be late. July tour. So it's only 3 weeks since you saw the June tour, and it was my first day back in the garden after COVID. And in all honesty, I'm still feeling really knocked out by it, but not enough to not have had a bit of a go at the garden over the last 3 weeks. You've seen some bits of it being squashed, what have you. Now, all I'm going to say is, pardon me, because I'm sure a lot of you watch a lot of other gardening channels too, and you'll have been seeing UK gardens. Where's my brown mopper? You'll have already been seeing UK gardens, producing. Some people, one of my plot neighbours has got his first ripe tomato, for goodness sakes. Yeah, all the gardens you'll have seen so far on your UK gardening videos are way ahead of mine. You know what? That's okay. They're all at the place that my garden would normally be at. They're at the place where gardens are meant to be at. Mine is not there. My garden is about 6 weeks behind. But I should be okay because we have been having for years now really mild autumns, I beg your pardon. So there's just about enough warmth and just about enough daylight hours in the autumn to hopefully get me a harvest. The main thing I want to say is, you know, all of us who've got an allotment, we are really, really, really privileged to have one. There are people on waiting lists up and down the country. Some waiting lists, they reckon, are 80 to 100 years long. In other words, you put your name on a waiting list, there is no chance of you getting onto that site. So, bye lovely. That's the only other person fool enough to be down here on a hot day. That's Catherine. Yeah, you know, so we are really, really lucky to have allotments. And we owe it, therefore, to make the most of them. And I know, we've talked about this a bit before already, but I know that from next year, obviously I'm giving this pot up because it's just becoming too much for me to manage because of the old knee bones, never mind. But I think it's that thing of, if you're not doing your plot, and now you may have a really, really good reason, you know, you've broken your back, you've had back surgery, obviously it's going to be a while, but your intention will be to get back on with it. I'm not talking about that situation. I'm talking about scenarios where, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. You know, you're not working, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You're just making excuses time and time and time again for not doing the garden. If you're not doing it and you don't have any good valid reason for not doing it, I would say do the right thing and hand it back. A garden shouldn't be a chore. I mean, it's a chore sometimes. You know, there are some parts of the year, yes, it is a chore, but it really shouldn't be a chore most of the time. And if it's becoming a chore, and if you're finding excuses, silly reasons not to go and not to do it, give it up. Let someone else have it. And that's exactly what I'll be doing next year. Give someone else a crack at this garden. Give someone else a chance to grow. And if you do give it up, you know, give it up before it's gone to rack and ruin. That's happened here before, you know. People leave and then we spend 2-3 work party days, hours and hours and hours clearing up someone else's mess, hiring a skip, paying £400 for a skip to cart away someone else's rubbish. Don't do that to our beautiful allotment sites. Get your rubbish off and either work your plot or give it up for someone else to have a go at. Right, sorry, that was a really long one, wasn't it? It's because I just wanted to sit here in the shade for a bit and drink my, it is a lovely, lovely ale. But one will be sufficient. Let's go and see how the garden's doing. If I start just by showing you the main path, does that give you an idea of how hot we've been? It's, well, hot and dry. I mean, look. It's absolutely parched to straw. So here's the garden. And yay, it is kind of starting to look a bit more like a garden, isn't it? I don't know, maybe a better view from here. Oh, I'm chuffed. There's still more to do. I'll mention those things as I go round, but the fact is, at the moment it's too hot to do anything. It's far too hot to do anything other than watering, so I'll keep on top of the watering, and then hopefully, you know, either if I can get here at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll get some work done, otherwise it's on hold for a couple of weeks. Oh, but look, the self-seeded cosmos. I love the white one. Ain't that pretty? And the lovely pink of that one with the second flowerings of the Nigella, Love in a Mist. Look at this one, pretty before it's fully opened. Oh, happy, happy days. The verbena never seems to mind lack of rain. Actually, that's a good thing to note, isn't it? Because I never water it, but it always seems okay. So that's maybe something to bear in mind in future years if we continue to get hotter and drier. My tree lily, well, okay, so it's not as tall this year, but the buds are getting fatter. So it would normally, well, in previous years, it's flowering around about now. But I just think because for the last 2 winters, I've moved it, disturbed it 2 winters on the trot. I think it's just knocked it back a little bit. But yeah, they're going to be gorgeous in a few days. And if it's a hot day when it flowers, my goodness, the fragrance is going to be divine. Proper sleep-inducing. Oh my goodness, the onions. It's going to come this way because of shadows. I honestly don't know what's gone on this year. I don't know how clear it is for you to see, but I've got 2 rows here, 2 rows here. This row, well, mashed by slugs. Slugs nibbled the tops. Others just haven't grown. So I don't know if there's a couple at this end have grown. So I don't know if I've just had rubbish sets. And then on this side, they're okay, but they're much smaller than I normally get. And actually, even in these rows, so I would normally hope for at least 80 white and 80 red. And it looks like, well, decent white ones. It looks like I'm going to be lucky to have 25, 30. Ay caramba. This will become a brassica bed. Now, the garlic bed would also become a brassica bed normally, but there's no way I can get a fork in there. What I'm thinking though is, because these 2 rows have come to nothing, is that soil was only worked back in April, mid-April. It may be just about soft enough for me to be able to get a trowel in to plant some of my kale or some such. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up on those 2 rows, get them out and use this bed. Well, it's going to be a brassica bed anyway, but get it underway. And then, where these ones are a bit rubbishy too, have them out and I can stick a brassica in there. It won't grow too massive, it won't overshadow the onions. And I think, well, do you see how they're starting to flop over? I think they're getting ready. That's sort of your sign that it's almost harvest time. Bit early this year, but again, I think that's a sign of the heat and dryness. Sorry, excuse me. Likewise, you can see it in the red. You see how at that end they're starting to flop over. That tells me that, yeah, they've done all the growing they're going to do, and now it's a waiting game. I reckon it's only a couple of weeks. It'll be the end of July probably, where all the tops flop over, they start to die back a bit, they'll start to go a bit yellow, and then it'll be time for me to lift them and get another harvest in, another crop in. It doesn't end, does it? Woohoo! Okay, so this was the last stuff I planted up at the weekend, and I'm just starting to try and find material for mulching with, because there's a lot of exposed soil here and I don't want exposed soil. These were the courgettes I put in. They were looking a bit yellow. That's because they were pot bound and they'd run out of nutrients in the compost. Hopefully they'll settle in and find nutrients in the soil, but I may also give them a bit of feed by way of a bit of diluted urine in with their watering, and that'll give them a little bit of nitrogen, pep them up a bit. So far okay. Next bed over, you see there's a bit of a gap between the beans and this courgette. I planted all my peppers and they have been completely fried by the sun. Dead as dodos, they've come out. I've got some chard, plugs of chard I can put in there. The next 2 along, that's the 2 courgette from Catherine. And then here where my spare toms are. This one, bring you in a bit closer. This is the one that I snapped as I was taking it out of the cold frame. And can you see there's a little stick here. I splintered the stem to the stick to just hold it, and then when I came to planting, I planted it all a bit deeper, so it should survive. And actually the top is greening up. Oh my goodness, the black cherry, they've already got little flowers on them. I wouldn't be saying oh my goodness in a normal year, because that's what I'd expect going into the middle of July, flowers. But Yeah. Oh, yay! Okay, so this bed, obviously I've got my 2 tomato beds we'll look at in a sec. That's the squash bed I didn't manage to get dug out. And you remember I said I had spare squash? Well, actually, they're going to be used in that bed over there. I'll show you why in a second. But the beans were one of the other disasters this year. So under here I reseeded. This is about 2 weeks ago. Coco Sophie. So they are coming, but they're a bit tardy. However, I've got a load of spares that I started in pots and loo rolls, and I think I'm just going to bung all those in there instead because they are really struggling to do anything. On this side, they are climbing. Some of them are up about 3 foot. It's really hard to tell in this light, isn't it? But the first 6 plants are my climbing bean helder. And actually this one is all the way up to here now. Yay, so that's what, 4 feet? Good stuff. And that's one that I like for eating the whole pod. It's the only climbing bean that I use for the whole pod. The next 3 poles and therefore 6 plants are borlotti. And those I use for dried bean for storing over winter. That's the ones where I plugged the other day. They're just, well, this one is getting going. You see. Yay, cling on, little one. Cling and wrap. But the others, not yet. And in this end, this is just sort of the bog standard runner bean called Scarlet Emperor. These I had sowed back at the end of May, and these are the ones that survived the slugs. On this side, all of these survived the slugs. That's why they're a bit, well, considerably further ahead than those, which literally are seeds went into the ground a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, you know, I'll have beans. The thing about this year is, I was sort of saying to myself, I should have everything that everyone else has. I'm just going to have it a lot later than everybody else. Oh, I mean, I don't know if you can tell on the picture how dry it is, both in terms of, you know, look at my grass path, but also the mud path. So that is a sweet dumpling and then the 3 golden nugget squash. These have been in a couple of weeks now, and I think you can see how they're just starting to green up a bit. So having gone in, they looked, shadow issues, they looked utterly miserable. But now they've settled in. Put it this way, they've settled in. They're not getting away yet, but they've settled in. You know, honestly, if we had a couple of nights of rain, they'd be romping. No romping yet. But they're alive. Now, tomatoes. This row on the back, this is all Rose de Berne. I mean, actually, the tomatoes are all looking pretty good. I need to do some tomato cares. So that's all the Rose de Berne. This row, it's Amish paste. And this is, Amish paste is the ones that worried me the first time I grew them because they look so droopy. They look sad, they look like they need, do you need water? Do you need food? What do you need? Tell me what you need. Miserable plants. But actually, that's just how they look. Now this is the weird one for me this year because I would normally have 2 rows, all Gardener's Delight. They're my bankers. But this year it's just 1 row of Gardener's Delight on the outside edge. And then these are so special. This is my first ever Guernsey tomatoes. So I kind of don't know what to expect, but I'm looking forward to it. I shall take any further advice if I need it from our Paul, because he's a proper Guernsey boy. This is the tomatoes his island has grown for decades and decades, although I believe that industry has pretty much died out now, like so many of our other important industries. But yeah, I think, you know, considering how late they've all gone in, they were in pots for ages and looking really miserable. They're all greening up, getting lit and getting the start of flowers. They're going to enjoy the warmth so long as I stay on top of the watering. you can see how I give them all a really good puddle. Yeah, they should be okay. God, man, it's hot. Haven't done anything here still yet. This is supposed to be brassicas following my broad beans, but there's no way I'm breaking ground in this weather. Next to it, the Coco de Pampol bed, which was sown, oh gosh, when was it? Beginning of May. And I lost pretty much all but I think about 8 plants. So I resowed it, and you can see a lot of the resowings actually made it. Some of the resowings, they came up and they were nibbled straight away too. And what I've done where I've got gaps, like this whole row was noshed. So yeah, where I've got gaps, I've plugged them with these are my little module sown beetroot. So there's actually about sort of 3 or 4 little beetroot per clump. Yeah, let's see if they can get away. I mean, again, they were in their modules way longer than one would want them to be. But, you know, they're in the ground now. Fingers crossed. Now, a couple of problem squash. So, these all, what is it? It's like 2 weeks ago, isn't it? Now look, firstly I've planted, everything's gone out late, we know that. But then, you know, things have gone out later than normal. It's dry, we're bone dry and hot. And I just think some things have hated it. So that butternut on the end is completely fried and dyed. Turned to a crisp. Now this is a thank you to Heather. Thank you, Heather. This is my Muscade de Provence. And that's the one I bruised. I slightly snapped the stem as I was putting the slug collar on it. And a couple of days later I came back and the wind was gusting and it was flopping from side to side. I was going, flop one way, flop the other. I was like, ah! But Heather had suggested that I earth it up to cover the snap area and it should root itself. So I've done exactly that. It doesn't look brilliantly happy, but there is new growth. Put it this way, it's not dead. That's the theme this year, if it's not dead. But you can see, look, you can see how they've struggled. Look, these leaves crisped. But again, you see, this is the growing tip, just in my fingers here. That's green, healthy and darker. But boy, oh boy, it was not a nice welcome to the world, to come into the world into such heat and dryness. And then also, that's another butternut. You can see, I mean, they've just fried and died. So the spares that I had talked about going in the undug bed, one spare can go in there and the other spare in here. And then I'll have 3 spares, and I don't know where they'll go, but they might go somewhere. Oh, I'm thinking, I need to deadhead my rose. Yeah, the heat's battered that too. On the right, that's 2 rows of main crop potatoes. They won't be coming out until October. But on the left, this is the new potatoes, salad potatoes, the Jersey Royal, that type of potato. You see they're starting to die back, and I think I'm going to get my fork out and have a little wiggle down there and see if I can have my first harvest out and make my favourite potato and broad bean salad, because I've got broad beans in the freezer still. Oh, and this I'm very happy about. On this side of the poles, it's all gigantes. Now these were all eaten originally. This has all been resown 2 weeks ago. I mean, they've done great in that just short, they're up to here. I know it's always hard to see the tendrils on camera, isn't it? But they've grown, I would say, for the most part, they're up about a foot. That's 2 weeks. That's amazing. And on the far side, at that end, that's the Madeira maroon that survived the slugs. And you can see they're much further up. One of them is up right to where that crossbar is. So they're getting away. And really, really happy about this. On this end, this is the Churchill Black. Again, these were resown a couple of weeks ago because the slugs had their lot, and they're coming on leaps and bounds too. Now the thing with beans is they're not, I would say they're not massive fans of the heat. What they're really not fans of is the dry. So you can, I don't know if you get an idea of it in there, but they're really, really, really well watered. And when I'm watering, I tend to water sort of into the centre, sort of behind them where it's a bit shaded. Soak it, and then hopefully that bit of shade from them as well stops the water evaporating quite so quickly. But it's, the rescue mission, I hope, was worth it. I think was worth it. Something else that loves the heat but also wants a lot of water, the chickpeas. Oh my goodness. And look, they're little fast flowers. They're the tiniest little flowers. You see, you may think to yourself, it looks like a pea flower or a sweet pea flower. Well, yes, they are chickpeas. Oops, sorry. So like they're the tiniest, weeniest flowers. And it amazes me every year. Once these are properly open, the bees go nuts for chickpea flowers. But it's crazy. You see these bees with their gorgeous, huge, great, fluffy backsides, trying to ram them into the tiniest little flower. You can see a little bit of a gap there, a little gap there. Plus, as we come along, the rock and coral. These were a complete disaster with the slugs. And I resowed, and I've lost a few more, but the second sowings, I mean, they're tiny at the moment, really tiny. I'm hoping they'll come, but again, anywhere there's a gap, little gaps, I'll plug with chard. Waste not, want not in terms of space, and look, a happy, happy sight. My calendula is starting to flower. I need to get my harvesting basket out, get harvesting. And actually there's a job I need to do for both the calendula and the chickpeas, which we'll see how the temperature goes, and we'll see if I can get myself, just haul my backside out of bed at 5 a.m. to get down here to get some of these jobs done. But delighted with the loveliness that is every year the gorgeous calendula. Beautiful. And you'll be mashed up in oil and on my skin before the autumn is out. Lovely. Next door, the parsnips. The parsnips look so much better for being thinned out a bit. Again, couple of rows, and then wherever there was no germination, I've put these little module sown clumps of spinach. But you can see nothing's happy in this heat. But this is the heat we've got, so you know what, little plants, I love you to bits, but toughen up. I have watered this bed. No, did I water? I haven't watered this bed. Yikes, I need to I've watered everything else. Oh, I'm sorry, little spinach. I forgot you. I'll come back in a minute. And just look at this lavender this year. Can you hear the bees? Can you see the bees? I was trying to trim the edge of the path the other day, but there were far too many bees in there for me to brush through. I didn't want to disturb them, and I didn't want to risk being stung. But I think this is my best lavender year. I could just stare at it for ages. And then I love it how your eye's taken with the verbena in the background too. And the tree lily, it's going to be gorgeous when the tree lily opens its buds. Now, of course, something really important not to forget, something important to remember is our little, gosh, that's gone down already, I'll top it up again, making sure there's some fresh, clean water available for insects, wildlife, cats, foxes, whoever visits your garden. Let's make sure we put some water out for them. This all needs a mega tidy up, as does the deck. So you see there's my little plugs of chard. They'll be okay, I think. You can see them in the shadow. Actually, I don't mind them being in the shade a bit today. So yeah, they can all go in. This, oh, I forgot to show you all the brassicas outside the shed. When I had the brassica mask, I took everything off the deck and put it on my wonky table, and I think it's worked for rescuing a lot of them. But you know what, brassicas, I'll do the brassicas with you another day. This blueberry has been giving and giving and giving, to the point, excuse me, scoffing and talking, where I've almost stripped it bare. Oh, sorry, excuse me. But this one, I haven't even started harvesting from yet. And I can see masses, absolutely masses of the things. Yum, scrumdiddlyum. So yeah, this is all part of the big tidy up. That's my spare squash. Look at the state of them. They're gagging to get in the ground. I'll find out which are the best. I'll have a look, decide which are the best candidates, get them out. If there's anywhere I can bung the others in, I will. This needs a bit of a tidy up. I need to do some more harvesting of the rhubarb. I also, stepping back a bit, I need to do what I did last year and create a hoop to just gently tie up the verbena, which goes mad. It's 6 foot tall now, isn't that beautiful? And then behind the honeysuckle and the rose, well, you can see the roses up here now. Yay, they all need properly tying in. And here, this is now coming through the rhubarb. That's my grapevine. Yeah. Lots of sorting. Lots of tidying. But on a day when it's, I mean, you can tell, can't you, it's boiling hot. Oh, and I must get those, there's the spare toms to go over to my friend. Look at them, these are peeking out the top. To go over to my friend. That was some brassicas Catherine spared for me, but they've been eaten. So it's a good job the ones I saved of my own have sort of come back and are usable. Oh, happy, happy days. Lavender, bees, and finally planted garden. My goodness, what an effort, but so worth it. Alright, lovely people, it is absolutely scorching hot. I need to water the parsnips. More specifically, I need to water those little clumps of spinach in there. Get myself home, get myself in the shade, and give myself a dunking in some cold water. So I'm going to leave it all there for now. Bid you all a very fond farewell, and see you again soon, probably indoors, until the worst of this heat is done with. Look after yourselves, everybody. Take care, and love from Rosie too. Is it nice in the shade there, Rosie? I don't blame you. Alright, lovelies. Cheerio.